All right, minute lessons by Mauro, okay? So here we go. This is the bottom of the motor. Bottom of the motor. Bottom of the motor. This is what is referred to as a bearing, and it's a piece that I have placed in there, okay? This is the new bearings. They're called King Racing bearings because we're gonna race. You know things are getting serious when I bust this up. So you know, we're just gonna like go like that, and we're just gonna make sure that the bearing is looking nice and smooth, okay? I use Vaseline, people use other stuff. All right, this thing is my crankshaft. It's gonna go on the bottom of the motor, on the bearings. It's crankshaft time. See, that sucker's in there already, okay? So when this spins, it's how the pistons are gonna be moving up and down. All right, everybody, it's the moment you all been waiting for. That's right, this is the bottom half of the block. So notice how the block is split right where the crankshaft goes, all right? This is the other half. As you notice, it has the top side of the bearings. So we have two pieces that are about to go together, all right? Now between these pieces, we're gonna have to add some sealant because we don't want any amount of oil coming out through that crack. Now we're all sealed up, and I'm gonna drop the second part of the block onto this one. There we go. Now we have married the two sides together, all right, and they have a nice little seal. And around this one, this is the rear main seal. It'll be like a donut looking thing. Now we just gotta bolt everything up, and I got them right here. Swing. So we can't just tighten them as hard as we want. They have what's called a torque spec, which is basically like saying how tight you're getting it. So here's a torque wrench, and we just have to set it to how much pressure we want it to stop us at, and it's basically going to click. For this purpose, we're gonna set it to 22 foot-pounds. 14 millimeter, yay yay. Now that that's all tightened up, I went ahead and I put the block on its side. Now usually I'd be using an engine stand, but for the purpose of this video, I'd like to be a little more stable. So what goes in these holes, you might ask? These do. This is called a piston, and this is the piston rod. We'll be using these skinny little rods for our build. This engine is considered 4 strokes because the piston performs 4 strokes in its function. So the first stroke is going to be intake, where it draws in air and fuel. Second stroke is compression, where it tightens it all up. The third stroke is the power stroke, and that's the exploding, okay? Or the combusting. Fourth stroke is exhaust. If you like it, then you better put a ring on it. So the piston's gonna have 3 grooves. On the upper 2 grooves, since this is upside down, we're gonna be using compression rings. The compression rings help it keep a tight seal during all of those 4 strokes. Now that bottommost groove, the 3rd groove, is for the oil retaining rings. This is gonna keep the oil under the piston and not on top where everything is on fire. All right, so here are all 3 rings installed, and I did what's called clocking of the rings, which means that you put the opening of one on one side, the other on the other, and then a combination of how you place them on the oil control ring. Here's a simple tool that I use, and I guess anybody building an engine should be using it, but it compresses your piston rings, okay? So you tighten it, and it squeezes them. Almost there, guys. You should not have to really be hitting this any harder than this. You see? Now that we have all these bad boys in, it's time to flip the block over and connect them from the bottom. We have here the bottom of the connecting rod. Now this has the other half of the bearing that goes around the crankshaft. Alright, so there's the bottom of the piston and the connecting rod that we just put in through the top. And as you can see, this is where this piece will go. Just like before, we can't just punk these things on there as hard as we can. They have a torque spec. Ding, bloop, bloop, ding. So this pretty much completes our block, and now we're gonna move on to the head. So here we have two valves on each side. Depending on what stroke the piston's on, either these are gonna open or these are gonna open. So what's the difference? So the air and fuel mixture come in through right here, and these valves open during the intake stroke. After the compression stroke, the spark plug that goes right there pops. The exhaust stroke will open up these two valves, and the burned air and fuel will escape. Valves don't open magically by themselves. They do it via a camshaft. Check it out. So the camshaft is not perfectly round. It has these lobes on it. So as it spins, the lobes kind of go around and they push down on things. This unit right here, which includes the camshaft on top, sits on top of the head. As the camshaft spins, those lobes come around and they push these units down. Those units on all four sections sit on top of the valves for all four cylinders. So it's all timed perfectly for when that lobe comes around, it's opening the correct valve on the correct stroke. All of this is done with the timing chain, and in some cases, some engines, a timing belt, which connects the crankshaft that moves all the pistons with a chain that goes up to the camshafts, so it's all moving together. So you might be asking, how do they go together? Well, I'll show you. So the top of the block around the pistons has like this passage, and also all around here you'll see different passages for oil and water. The head is going to sit right on here with the valves right on top of each cylinder. You probably heard about a head gasket, and that's what this is. The head gasket is right there. Now the head gasket is going to separate combustion from water passages from oil passages. This is why mechanics will find oil in your water or water in your oil and tell you you have a bad head gasket. Bad head gasket. All right, let's get some head. There it is, there it is. Time to torque this bad boy down, and I have just the thing. Scooby, boing, zap, 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 zap. Boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Wanga. Doo-doo. Meow. Honk. Zingus. So far, we've assembled the block and the head. Here's the valve train that I spoke about earlier, and basically I just put it right on top of the head. Everything has to be lined up properly upon assembly, but you can see now how the chain goes around the crank and the camshaft, and it spins in synchronization. As the camshaft spins, it pushes down on those arms that open the valves and allow fresh air, gas in, or exhaust out. This has been a super basic assembly of a K24 block with a K20 head. Join us next time here on Playback Racing. Go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and please leave a comment on anything you want to learn in the future.